Alright, this is your Unit 2 study guide review. First off, for the Unit 2 study guide, there are some repeat questions on the second test from Unit 1. Those first 10 questions you can find on your Unit 1 study guide. For the information for Unit 2 to start off, 11 and 12 are very similar. College degrees, participation in political process. Those who have more education and more degrees tend to be more liberal. Also, more education tends to be more likely to actually participate in the political process or vote. How does the federal government deal with bilingualism in areas where a second language is often used? Then, in a federal election, they must have materials available in those languages. Children adopt their parents' point of view or political attitudes for the most part. In the United States, you must be 18 years old, U.S. citizen, resident of the state. Most states make you register. However, there are some states that you do not have to be registered. The Constitution does not say much about voting. It does say that the people have to select the House of Representatives, and it left most voting decisions up to the states until the federal government did take over when they passed a few amendments, as well as civil rights voting acts. Definition of political efficacy: belief that one can make a difference in politics by expressing an opinion and acting politically. Voter turnout is usually low. A couple of the reasons: weekday voting. Political parties don't push people to get out there and actually vote, don't physically do that anymore as much. In the past, there was a lot of fraud, so people didn't trust the system. And often people are not as enthusiastic because of too many local elections that go on. Your basic elements listed here of the U.S. political culture is that you have liberty, you have equality, it is a democratic system, you do have a civic duty to participate, and an individual responsibility towards the political culture. What makes up the democracy is a little bit of repeat of Unit 1, universal suffrage, everyone can vote. Political equality, everyone's equal. Majority rule, so when voting, the majority will rule, and that the government is responding in a way to public opinion. In 2002, there's a federal court ruling on the Pledge of Allegiance that said it was not unconstitutional to have the word God in the Pledge of Allegiance because it was not promoting or forcing religion, so they found that to be okay. It is good to note that religion does influence many social issues and a lot of public opinion. Public policy is different than public opinion. Public policy is what is implemented by our Congress people and representatives, and it's much slower. There's a longer process to get the legislation and those things passed compared to public opinion, which is day-to-day, quick. Sometimes it is also hard to determine what public opinion is on a certain issue. In order to have a valid poll, you want about 1,100 responses. That means you get make contacts with about 500,000 people, then get maybe 15,000, or in a population of 500,000 people, 15,000 contacts. Actually having 1,100 people take a poll give you a good margin of error. Exit poll is taken right after people are leaving the booth. A lot of times it's just asking, who did you vote for? A couple of the terms for political efficacy. Internal is actually understanding politics and different concepts in politics. External is the perception of creating change or your ability to create change in the political system. Impact on religion, social issues. Religion impacts those issues, abortion, marriage. It does not really play a role in the economic and foreign policies of the United States. Different sources of or cleavages in public opinion, whether what social class you're in, your race, ethnicity, what religion you practice, if you practice, the region of the country, the job that you have. Your family is not a social cleavage. Biocchi's research, we talked a little bit about how he did a lot of research on public opinion. And one of the things that we also talked about is that your political affiliation is tied with your job. Percentage of voters has increased, or percentage of registered voters who turn out is about 50 to 60%, and that's in presidential elections, so it's a little lower in others, so about 40% in non-presidential years. The motor voter law is where you can go to the DMV. When you're getting your license, they can also ask you, do you want to register to vote? It makes it much easier, but it has not helped with voter turnout. Different ways to participate in the political process besides voting: lawn signs, campaigns, protests, marches, donating, going door to door, having discussions, going to forums. African Americans were prevented from voting in a few ways: poll taxes, grandfather clause, where if your grandpa voted, you could vote; white primaries, where only white individuals could vote; and then literacy tests, which are long and hard and you had to pass in order to become registered. They weren't prevented based on race, but they put other things in place to do that. A couple of the reasons: bullying alone, less political participation, and less social interaction means social capital has decreased. So making the connection between politics, less interaction between people, society dwindles. They say because of that less interaction, that also translates more people aren't as interested in the political process. Arlen Specter's an article we read about. An individual who's a moderate politician, changed parties, would always vote across the aisle. At times, you couldn't really rely on his vote. And then he was not reelected because he was so moderate. There was no meeting in the middle, which kind of connects to the moderate issue and how it affects American politics. Today, we're so far left, so far right, that there are barely any moderates left, and a lot of that leads to no compromise, more disagreement, and stalemates, which is why our Congress has made very little legislation compared to years past. Now looking at possible FRQs, make sure you know these concepts. You can write about them, discuss them. We already talked a little bit about political participation other than voting, and then some advantages of those. Causes of voter turnout. Age can impact. Younger tend to be more liberal. However, a lot of times younger people are harder to get out that 18 to 24 range. Also age and voter turnout. Their identity is closer to their parents. Education, more likely to vote. The more education you have, more likely you participate in the process. And then religion, if there's a hot topic on a social issue, that will get people to come out and vote. Current government requirements that impact voter turnout: the register on your own compared to other European countries, they do it for you. Weekday voting as well can limit people from getting out and voting. Some linkage institutions: the top three: the media, political parties, interest groups, or PACs. Then 3 amendments you should know that expanded voting rights for individuals. You have the 15th Amendment, race; 19th Amendment for women; and the 26th Amendment for age. That's Unit 2. Good luck.